Good evening. This is the Bullcritter's Corner. We're doing coffee with the Bullcritter's Corner, and this is Steve.
And this is John. So we're just gonna shoot the shit for about an hour. So just recently, I met an acquaintance I used to have. Talked with him for a while, and one of the things he said is he's got a family. You know, he's got three girls, and he bought the starter set for 5th edition from Walmart, and he was going through it while I was there at the dinner table, and the characters in the starter set, which I didn't know, because I'm long past, involving the starter set usually, which can be a bit hubristic, but all the characters sheets in the starter set were pre-made. And so that got me thinking about a couple things. First off, what are some good advice to give people who are DMing for maybe younger people or people that are trying to bring D&D into their lives or into their families maybe for the first time in a long time?
Okay.
And the other question was, modules, since we're working on a module, the differences or the benefits or, things that you can work out for pre-made characters. Like, for instance, just to start that conversation, for our module, right? One of the things we wanted to build in was that depending on how you chose your starting play, you could modify and affect the whole module.
Sure.
And so we didn't do that by going, you can only be these characters, which I've seen other modules do before. With that way, everybody, the module knows you have the skills you need to get through certain things.
The pre-made characters, in my opinion, tend to be more for starter packs. Though I believe I have seen a few other places where they have done it, so...
Yeah, well, if you want to walk in the steps of the best Dragonlance, characters and things like that, you can find those characters. But my idea was, so with ours, we just did starting packages, and so no matter who your character is, you as a group pick a starting package.
Sure.
And that gives you access to certain equipment the other packages don't have, or certain skill things that will affect later skill challenges.
Certain abilities to
get past quests in a different route later on in the module. And so I was just wondering, it is very narrow to have to play certain characters, but with new 5th Ed, like we were talking about before, where they actually develop out what are your flaws, what are your goals, your ideals. What are they called? I'm not.
It's flaws, bonds, and something else. I don't remember.
So with those things, they actually gave those things for the characters as well. So unlike something maybe in 3.5 where you have Tordek, the dwarven fighter, and Tordek has these stats, they actually
ideals is the other
gave
one.
a personality for each of the playing characters. So one of them that I saw was a human fighter who was a folk hero.
Mm-hmm.
And who couldn't lie and wanted to get a statue built of himself. So it kind of gives you this character model that you can kind of slip in. And I started thinking, well, if it's the first time people are playing, that's beneficial in a way if they don't have any experience acting, especially with kids, things like that. I wondered what your thoughts were, if you think it's better or worse, or what conditions it would be better to have those kinds of...
Personally, I started the game myself playing with here's a character sheet, make a character.
Yeah, ditto.
And I think that is probably the best way because it lets you build something you want. But then there still is the concern that you have to... Will you put that down?
Sorry.
You have to build something. You have to create something. So if you have no ideas whatsoever... then you're kind of up the creek. 5th edition addresses, like you mentioned, addresses that in some degree with the bonds, flaws, and ideals charts because you can just roll on those and they'll give your character personality traits that you can then just play to. But in previous editions, that wasn't necessarily an option. Depending on how story interested or focused your storyteller is for any particular game. they might have had a questionnaire for you to fill out to round out the concepts of your character. I've seen that before, which really, the questionnaire helps a lot.
Well, what the questionnaire thing always reminded me of is, you played Ultima, the PC game?
No,
ever?
I never played
Okay,
Ultima.
so in Ultima, not Ultima Online, which I'm sure both of us played, right?
Yes.
In Ultima, almost every single game, I'm pretty sure every single game, maybe not like the Stygian Abyss, either way, they start off with the character that you are, this generic, unlabeled human from the human plane, comes across a fortune teller. And this fortune teller or alchemist sometimes will go and ask you questions like, you see a mob running through the street after a man, what do you do? And they're all vague questions to where it really gets down to the core of your first response. Like, I interject to find out what's happening. I stop the mob from killing this man.
Yeah,
I help the mob kill the man.
They focus you. The questions, the way you answer them would give you a class or give you a character.
Yeah, they build out virtues, which is what that game was based on.
Well, the problem is that even if not a problem. The problem with those games in particular is no matter how you answered them, what they gave you, you weren't constrained into being that.
Well, I don't know if I guess it kind of defeats the purpose of doing it. But I was thinking about
Because it was a
modules.
video
What are your thoughts on because we play, when you play Dragon Age, right, you get to pick your character and the decision-making processes they go through. I guess Dragon Age wouldn't be good. There's so many role-playing. Well, what's a good role-playing example where you're pigeonholed into one character who's this type of person who has to follow these things, and you're watching the story unfold as you are?
I don't.
Well, how about this? It's not really a role-playing game necessarily. It's open world, and it's seen more as an action game, but it's kind of a role-playing game. Red Dead Redemption, the new one.
Okay, so there you're pigeonholed into being the main character.
Well, not just that. You're pigeonholed, in my opinion, into being the criminal mind. Like, you can't tell Dutch to go screw off, or that you think that this is wrong, or that this is like crossing the line.
I
Unfortunately
wouldn't know. I've never.
Well, so pretty much what happens is the story cutscenes play along and the story plays out, and like.
By the way, spoiler alert on any Red Dead Redemption stuff because.
I'm not really gonna to go into the specifics.
We're
all I'm
bordering
saying
the
is
territory.
that as the cutscenes play out, you really don't have an option as to delineating away from that linear path.
So you're stuck as playing the bandit instead of ever building your way out of it?
Even if you tried to, do your best to not kill and not do this, and they have, or like games that have karma systems that don't really actually matter, because you're kind of, like for instance, how many endings were there to Fable? Was there one where you could let the guy go? Every single one ends with Jack dying.
I'm going to be honest with you. I never finished playing Fable. It was more fun to, kill chickens. And
I didn't finish it the first run. I spent probably 20 hours playing it, and then the second run I beat it in, a start to finish kind of
that's what I heard. It ended up being really short. No, those kind of games, it kind of falls in the same vein as something like Grand Theft Auto. I don't believe I've ever finished a Grand Theft Auto, but I've gone in and put
Don't
tons
give you
of
an
hours.
open world.
Don't give me an open world where I'm allowed to just be a complete and utter douche nozzle.
Yeah, we'll just go have fun with it.
If I'm allowed to just run around and kill city guards and grow giant horns...
That's the number one way that people play Grand Theft Auto anyway.
Yeah. But it just...
Okay, so then go into the next topic. Do you think that it's better for people, for kids or people that started? Would it be easier for the kid to play something more akin to their own empathetical line? Or do you think trying to put them in this cage would be better?
I think if you're running a game...
the connotation I said was incorrect there. I said cage like it was already a negative and everything, but...
Yeah. No, I think if you're going to run a game for a young person... especially if they're your own children, you have a certain knowledge of their likes, their wants, their preferences, right? If back in the day, if I were trying to run a game for my younger sister, I would have gone, okay, well, which Disney films does she like watching? Which Pixar films does she like watching? Because those are very easy storylines to co-opt into a D&D setting. And you could run anyone. You could run
How to Train Your Dragon.
You could run How to Train Your Dragon. You could run Hell, just pick any Disney film. Really, you could run Lion King.
Or
Shift.
you can run Kimba the White Lion.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
All right.
Hi, Bloodluster and Slow Cool. Nice to see you guys.
Hey guys. And because you can co-op those things, you don't have to literally just play out. Oh look, it's the Lion King or it's Beauty and the Beast.
No, you just hide it. You hide.
You
that
can
story
use those elements, and while using them, you can.
And if you've got a kid that wants to play like the craziest, darkest White Wolf vampire game, and they're like 7, you need to start addressing your child's like, I don't know, maybe skip her some grades ahead, and a psychologist might be in order. I don't know.
Both probably.
It depends. They might grow up that way. It's just a little weird.
You get a message?
Oh no, that's at the beginning we had
Okay.
that issue, so I said we'd start in 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I think co-opting ideas like that is going to be the best approach because you just can co-opt it very easily.
Recognizable plot lines. I would suggest things like like for instance, you usually don't have a problem with it in something like D&D anyway, but like the big bad and the big bad's representation that you put at the characters should be simple. It shouldn't be 32 people, 32, in some high political game. I think it should be a very
No.
I'm here to kill the Smurfs and my name's Gargamel.
Yeah, something
Boom.
more simple. And that's not to say that you can't build off of that. Maybe you do the Gargamel thing, and then as the players, the younger people, finish off the Gargamel thing, they find out the entire reason Gargamel was killing Smurfs is because he was stealing their voices to sell to a weird octopus humanoid.
Just like
and then you open this entire run.
So what you're saying is you run Kingdom Hearts for your kids. It sounds like an awesome game.
Essentially, right? And then
so
then you guys you go in and you start dealing
Anybody
with
know?
that.
Anybody know?
And what?
They have a Kingdom Hearts role playing game actually.
I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting. It'd be a really interesting setting because it involves so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could make the argument
just
now
imagine
that any
stats
Star
on
Wars RPG kind of is the edgings of a Kingdom Hearts RPG.
So here's another thing, the age ranges, like one's I think 17, 18. I think she's a senior in high school, and then you have one that I'm not sure. I didn't ask all their ages, but I'd say anywhere from 10 to 12, and then one that's 4.
Okay.
And the one that's 4, communicatable and all that for people who don't hang around a bunch of 4-year-olds.
I would have said the lowest age to start playing D&D would have been between 4 and 5, depending on development.
Yeah, development. Developed enough, surely, for D&D. Really excited to play it, too.
At 4 to 5, the idea is you need to keep your storyline very simple. You need to
how
have
do you balance
dramatic
that
moments.
if you're also playing with the other 2 siblings?
I don't know. You just... Just because you're keeping it simple doesn't mean you're dumbing it down. There's a difference between simple and lacking not intelligence. There's a difference between simple and dumb. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying on that. Game?
Yeah, that's game.
Say something?
What's up? But no, there is a difference
sorry about
between
that,
simple
guys.
and dumb. The thing is, when you're doing it for the younger person, maybe there are moments where you've got beats where they're not going to have to be as involved in the game. And that's okay. For those particular beats, make sure that player, that person, has a few other things that they can interact with at the table. Maybe at the beginning of one session you set it aside and you grab a couple of blank pieces of paper and you make sure to be describing certain things, and that way maybe they can start drawing
stuff,
or say, hey, you give a interesting description of a character, not super in depth, remember,
but something that you could like if you're telling a kid a bedtime story or something, like it can be overblown a little bit. And his red cape is waving in the night. Like something that's fun that you might not be able to get passively by an adult without them going, okay, we get it, it's a thing. Let's get dangerous. Anyway, no. So I was thinking with it, that's a great suggestion. like if somebody's 4 and they're at the table and you want them to participate, giving them something to do during downtime and explaining to them like it's shared, it's respectful because everybody gets the chance to say something, so don't interrupt when anybody's talking, kind of thing. Because if you expect like a 2 or 3 hour session, because I can't imagine with that age group.
With that age group, I wouldn't expect anything past a 3-hour session.
Yeah, that's if you're trying to get a 4-year-old to sit still for 2 to 3 hours and quiet for a good chunk of that, you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
So I think like your idea, beautiful idea. Like give them something else.
I'd
to
also make
with.
a point of going out. They've got these foam dice. They're not very large or very difficult to find. And they'd be a good addition because that's something that they could both roll on the table and still get a dice rolling effect. And then if it happens that the kid does something like drop it on the floor or toss it around or for whatever reason play around with it more than just what would be rolling, it's not something that's going to hurt anything or anyone. It's not something that it can step on.
And annoying.
It might be a little distracting, but you're opening the door to that when you have a 4-year-old at the table.
Yeah, I think they might be just trying to use her as being able to roll for the mother, which is also, a way to participate and get the show.
Yeah, if you have that level of participation, maybe get one of those smaller kid desks or have a secondary table or other, writable surface nearby. So again, as long as there's something interesting, they can draw it because most kids that age do a lot of drawing. Even if it doesn't make sense to, what we're looking at, when they put it on that paper, it made sense to them.
But I can imagine that it's very rewarding, very fulfilling to do something like that because you get so much more leniency. One, new players, they don't know what the expectations are. And I think the other thing would be, like, just I can only imagine the kind of imaginative answers. Like, like, for instance, you I don't know if you've ever heard before, but, like, you can tell a really simple, like, knock-knock joke or riddle. Like something that has a pun as an answer or something.
Sure, and a younger person will bust a gut. And
well, no, I'm not saying that. Like they can guess it, like what the actual answer is. Where we'd be like thinking about it for a whole second because we're like, no.
Well, it's because we're overcomplicating it.
Yeah, we're overcomplicating it, and so the kind of answers that you could get from somebody who was younger trying to problem solve, which personally I think D&D is great for problem solving skills and social skills, like how to communicate in a way that you can get a plan of action done. Sure. Like how do you get 4 people to agree to do something? You're teaching them that already at young age. You're teaching them leadership skills too. So, what I'm trying to say is more D&D in schools. I don't know if you remember, but when I was growing up, we used to play house. When I was in like kindergarten and first grade, and so that's pretty much all D&D is. It's like a more complicated, violent version of House.
More complicated. Yeah, it's make-believe. It's make-believe land. It's just like when we were younger and we played Cowboys and Indians or Cops and Robbers. All those things are...
is if you've got, bang, I shot you. No, you didn't. That's why you have a DM.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we did as adults was go, we need to have an arbiter here. Somebody who's going to say which cops died and which robbers died. Which I can only imagine how fun that would have been if you had like an actually impartial judge when you were a younger child. Like, bang, bang, he got you first. I'm here, I'm the judge, and I don't lie. So yes, he got you first. You're out this round. You'd be like, it would be intense. You'd be doing like some first-person shooter stuff with your friends in the backyard.
That would be the first time that a child becomes aware of the fact that there likely is no such thing as an impartial judge.
Yeah, right. Why is it that Tommy always wins?
He's just that good.
And you're Tommy's dad.
No, he's just that good.
Oh, that would be the worst session. You're like a 12-year-old kid with a bunch of other 12-year-old kids, and then one kid's dad's the DM, and he gets all the treasure and all the cool stuff.
I think I started at like 9 or 10, and my first run was with someone's dad. And
well, yeah, the right people.
My memory of it wasn't. It wasn't impartial to any one person. The entire thing that I remember that was so ridiculous about this one, we were in this frozen area, like tundras and everything, and we go into a cave and there's a frost giant. And we happen to be carrying salt. Well, it's a frost giant, right? You said it's a giant made of frost. So we as a party in that particular game, a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds, killed a frost giant by peppering him with salt.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Is that's the kind of problem solving.
No,
you're
it's
gonna
great.
get
It was
when
fun.
adults would be like, "Well, the rules say it has 110 HP, and I fought the Frost Giant 16 times in other sessions, so I know that." You get what I'm saying? Which is good. You need that. You need defined things for everybody to be on the same page. But if you could go back to a place where it's really open and the DM just jives and just goes off, goes, no, you know what? I really like that idea. We're gonna roll with that. Or I like that over there. That's a good one too. We're gonna do this. And, it can be a whole new thing. It takes a lot more trust.
No,
I think,
the thing is, with younger people who aren't trying to take advantage of anything yet, it works. Oh, you reflect the disintegration beam with a mirror. Okay, yeah, cool. Rock on. Great idea, kid. Now you do the same thing to a room of adults. Well, we're gonna reflect the disintegration beam off of 5 mirrors so it hits this other fucking wall, and then we're gonna reflect it back to hit the thing that shot it.
Yeah, we're gonna reflect it. Oh wait, it worked. Okay, we're all going to put mirrors all over our armor, and that's the new thing we do now.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it becomes this thing where it's no longer creative overcoming. It's more like,
Wait, how can I game this?
I see the DM is allowing us to be creative to overcome difficulty. Now, we must test the limitations of his patience.
Well, kids are testing it without even realizing it.
Kids are testing in a different way. It's the lack of intent. The lack of intent makes a world of difference.
Well, it's hard to determine what intent is all the time,
I don't know.
Maybe.
When I sit down at the table, there are certain players that I can look at and I go, okay, how many times am I going to say no before we have a character on the character,
Well, I try to keep it simple. I think that I like to have the ability to have answers to a lot of different situations, so I can be participant. And I also kind of like to play the intelligence of the character. I mean, that's another split. Like, the kid is just going to, like, they might not even be able to, like, they're not going to fully empathize with what's on the character sheet. There's no way. Like, the best thing you can do with a young enough kid is to be like, make yourself, and we'll turn you into a hero.
Yeah. That's
like, because you're still trying to figure out who you are, which all of us are, but you're really trying to figure it out still.
I think in that situation, you either do what you just said, or you go, okay, well, who do you want to play from all of your favorite TV shows?
Yeah,
do you want to be Ariel? Okay, we're gonna make you a bard. You want to be Dora the Explorer? We're gonna make you a ranger. I don't know, the Scooby-Doo crew. Okay, I need someone who's good at investigation. I just need someone that's intelligence-based or good at, so a rogue or a wizard.
But I think there could be some problems there in a little bit, because they might be like, well, no, that never happened to this person. If they're having a problem delineating or distinguishing that reality from, like, the role-playing reality and the reality of what's happening at the actual
table. Which is a realm of stuff that you, dealing with a much younger player, are going to have to work around or work with. It's just...
So what I'm thinking now, though, that Care Bear movie, the Care Bear module for D&D.
Which Care Bear movie?
The one with the freeze ray who froze hearts.
No, you mean the Nutcracker one?
No. Was there a Care Bear Nutcracker film?
Yeah.
No, this is the one where a guy went around freezing people's hearts.
Oh, shit. I don't even think I saw that one. But either way, yeah, I mean...
They had to spray him with love in order to get him to
you could definitely do that, and you could present the Care Bear heart abilities as just a extra ability that everyone gets. You go, okay, well, which emotion does your character represent?
Yeah.
All right. That means that you do a beam of I don't know. Whatever.
I like that. It makes me think of, like, you turn your D&D sessions into afternoon cartoon shows with point, like, back when the day when they actually had, like,
you could definitely
moral
do that,
points
and
to them.
then create one-off stories that can be played in 2 to 3 hours. That way, it doesn't require a ton of investment. And you don't even have to have a major through line. You do not episodic. You do flavor of the week.
Yeah.
So what good shows were on this week or last week?
What shows are they into? What cartoons they like?
You can
the
focus
cartoon
it that way. Sure.
They has a bunch of rocket packs in it. Okay, well, we can give our bad guys rocket packs.
Yeah.
Or give them access to a rocket pack.
So it's
those are images that are more like one of the conversations that came up was a phoenix, right? And it was like she likes phoenixes, the fire phoenixes.
Okay.
And the sister said, well, there's ice ones too, which that's from another medium. That's
Who cares?
Another trope. I know. My thought at the table goes, I was like, phoenixes are made of fire. Like, they come from ash. That's what was in my head. Like, that's all they are. But I think it was Pokemon. I don't know what it was. It was some other thing that had ice phoenixes.
Okay.
And so there are no limitations to any of the mythological beings.
No, there shouldn't be. If you wanted a frost phoenix, okay. So just following the concept of what a phoenix is, when it dies, it turns into a giant explosion of ice shards, and it leaves behind a patch of permafrost that slowly reforms into a bird. Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Do you want to do it with earth? Okay. When it blows up like a fragmentation grenade, and slowly the small pebbles roll back together over the course of 24 hours and rebuild the bird. Water, you can do the same thing.
But the thing is, it's from the show. So what you're doing is you're building this language. So that girl knows what an ice phoenix looks like because she's seen it in media.
Okay.
So when you say ice phoenix, she'll recognize it. If I go, there's some gnolls, I am now building the first impression they have of that.
Yeah,
so you can build off a lot more of the images they already have.
You do have to pick images they already have because that'll be the easiest for you to breathe life into it. I don't have an example of a gnoll necessarily from any particular cartoon.
I would probably say they're like hyenas from Lion King.
That would be a great representation. I mean, the hyenas in Lion King are all about...
It's a little cool again.
What's up, guys?
I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah, cool. No, the hyenas are all about overeating. Their entire thing is consumption, which falls well in line with the thought processes of the gnolls. Their entire purpose is to consume and consume and consume. And they already look like hyenas, so it's this great crossover. Beautiful. They'd be perfect for your Lion King story.
Yeah, and you could incorporate. I think that would actually be kind of fun to figure out. Also, there really needs to be like a campaign started across this entire nation to bring role playing into the school. I'm sorry, I just started thinking about how much benefit it is.
But going back, I'm
stuck
stuck on this Lion King idea now because you've got the Tabaxi, they're cat people that covers your lions. You can do your lions with Tabaxi. I think there are goat folk or boar folk, so that covers...
the wildebeest that killed the king?
No, Pumbaa.
Oh, Pumbaa.
That would cover Pumbaa. I mean, he's not a goat. I understand that, but I don't think there's a
pig person?
Oh, wait. There's wereboars.
Yeah, that's a ripped Pumbaa, bro.
Who cares?
I understand why you have so much gas. You are like 7'2".
I mean, think about it. You got a wereboar who's all about Hakuna Matata and being chill, so he doesn't
That's the weirdest wereboar ever.
So he doesn't give in to the.
But what happens when he rages? Just like when Pumbaa rages, he like.
Yeah, man. I mean, just think about it. You can sell it all. I'm in my brain just putting this together now. You got enough. You've got enough of the elements that you can just. I mean, the bird. I forget the bird's name. Aarakocra. Right there. Boom. Got another one knocked off the line.
He's got a ledger with him, and he's all like standing upright.
Yeah. What's the baboon's name?
Baboon.
Rafiki. Are there baboon folk?
Yes, there are baboon folk for sure.
I know in other editions there were some. So
well,
I mean, it doesn't matter as long as they exist. You can bring them over. So I mean, you've got all the elements, all these little cheeky things, and you can put it together, and so it doesn't necessarily look like Lion King at first. Looks like you're presenting a town of Tabaxi, and then the mayor and his brother kinda not chill with each other, and there's some gnolls out in the hills in the like Deadlands area. You can build it all. You can build Lion King in a 3-hour segment, man.
It'd be fun. Plus, it fits, like, the older kids involved will start understanding what kind of story it is. And really, all Lion King is Hamlet.
Oh, it is Hamlet, of course. I wasn't, but We're talking about in the context where
there's
it's...
other stuff to it, but...
We're talking about the context where
Heavy
it's
Hamlet.
easiest to pick up for the younger audience. So when you start presenting it, there's these lion folk, and then one of them's the king or the mayor. You don't need to use the same titles, but you still present the same roles. The person in charge.
When the NPCs talk, you're just like, 1 second, I got James Earl Jones queued up right here. Play. No,
it's a bit too much, maybe.
No, but when the game first starts, they get the lights down at like 30% in the dimmer.
Oh Lord!
But no, how does the song go? Like, at the very beginning, we not the fire in the circle.
Oh yeah.
You're here at a ceremony where the king is proclaiming his new heir and son to the throne, and he's sitting up there on a pedestal, and the priest, the high priest, like holds him up.
Yeah. So, but okay, let's move. What else you got?
Well, I was just thinking about that. So what about the balancing of the ages? How do you think it's best to keep the interest of somebody who's maybe a teenager and the interest of somebody who's maybe under 10 at the same time? How do you get one where they're not like, oh, it's so easy, and the other one's like, not like, I don't understand what's going on, because there's a lot of big words being thrown around.
So your combats are going to be more simple. I think where you're going to entice the older mind is where you create social situations and social drama. It's also where you're going to do your puzzles, and the puzzles, although they need to be seemingly simple, it's got to be simple with multiple answers.
If you ever give any trivia of any sort and you only have one answer, you're going to be sitting there. That's with adults for like 20 minutes. I remember that, actually, Ultima Stygian Abyss. That was the game with the riddles, with the not made of bone nor flesh nor...
Wasn't it glove?
Something nor feather. Yeah.
Yeah, it's glove.
Yeah, but isn't like...
It was vague enough. Actually, it depends on what the glove's made out of.
Yes, but I can make a glove out of... Like, it's one of those things where, like, dude, I can make a glove out of feathers. Yeah, I promise you somebody's done it.
Your answer can both be correct and incorrect. It's a pain in the ass. And the beauty of a question like that, not in a video game, right, is I can leave it where there's multiple answers. Because the thing is, when you go, crap, man, it could either be glove or it could be shoe. And the other person's like, what the fuck do you mean glove or shoe? Then you play out what your reasoning behind it is. You both come up to the answer, and since I've given you the couple minutes to have this conversation, you finally step up to the Sphinx. You go, the answer's shoe. I take a moment. The Phoenix pauses, looks left, looks right. Draws a slow, irritated, breath. You may pass.
Yeah. Feels like an accomplishment.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I wrote down glove. But you know what? Just because I wrote down glove doesn't mean that the answer has to be glove. If your answer makes sense to me, like when you gave that description to the other person, if I, as the asshole who made this puzzle, go, actually, you know what? That's not the answer I came up with, but now that I've heard the reasoning behind it, I'm like, I can see it. Okay, yeah. Rock on. You got it, dude.
So you keep the young one involved with fantastical imagery and like some kind of pacing of where there's not too much lull.
Fantastical imagery, easy short combats. You don't want anything to go more than I think you don't want anything to go more
rounds.
I was going to say 6. 6 is the max rounds.
Well, it depends. If you have 3 or 4 players, I'd say 3 or 4 rounds for the kid's attention span for that one singular combat.
Try and streamline combat. Actually, you know what a really good idea is? Since you want to keep that kid focused, right? You take a little dice tray with a different colored dice than her dice set, his or her dice set, and you go, you're in charge of rolling the goblin's attack rolls.
Oh, that's a great idea. That way they have something to do mid-round.
So, when it comes around to the goblin's turn, you go, okay, hey, Timmy, it's that goblin's turn. Where do you want him to move? Yeah, I like that idea. All right, go ahead and roll me an attack roll to hit your sister.
Yeah, but why is it that you never pick to hit yourself?
I mean, that's why you only allow them to control some of the goblins. You still control... You retain the ability to still...
Yeah.
But it's another facet. It's a concept that I heard from someone else called monster wrangling. You will find that when you give players control of the monsters, initially you're going to find that they will try not to destroy themselves. But very quickly, players will get bored of the lack of difficulty, and they will start fucking each other up.
Everybody go for the cleric first.
But the thing is, it's really surprising. Like, it's not... I'm going to make you roll, but... Alright, John, this round you're commanding the goblins.
You're all gonna die.
Alright, next round, Joey, you're all controlling the goblins. Chris, you're all... And so everyone gets their turn. So it either turns into this really nasty thing where people are being vindictive assholes.
Oh no, everybody's gonna die. I'm gonna die. It's gonna be a party wipe.
But the thing is, the monster wrangling... I think usually actually you just dictate one person for that session to help monster wrangle. But the idea is that the players, even though initially they might go easy on themselves,
they'll shape up.
The boredom of that ease will turn into something more interesting, because players will ultimately end up making... It's not players. The other people at the table will have a different tactical sense than you do. And when you change it up, where sometimes you're running the encounters and sometimes you're having the monster wrangler handle encounters, it becomes a really interesting thing.
Yeah, you'd have to change tactics. I mean, based on your enemy each fight. Whereas a lot of people get into the similar tactic each time. You know, a very similar... Like, they might base it on the monster, this, that, but they themselves have some kind of general tactic.
That's another interesting thing that I've seen for...
Apologies, everybody.
For the monster wrangling, another idea was for the players to track hit points. I don't tell you how many hit points a monster has. I just go, John, you're keeping track of hit points this combat.
That way they keep active, and you know they're able to stay involved in that.
It's another way to maintain focus on what's going on at the table. Because sometimes combat, especially, can drag. There are rounds.
2 viewers, but 4 people in the room.
The Twitch thing is weird. We've talked about this before, and you threw a fit.
Sorry. Didn't make sense. Sorry. Please forgive me.
But,
I just looked over. I'm like, it says we got 2 people watching, but we got 4 people in our room.
I don't know. But yeah, so... I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry, but that was good advice. You were talking about monster wrangling. And
the monster wrangling, yeah. HP handling. It's just other things you can do to build up more attentiveness at the table.
And also, I think some things, if you're playing with kids, to stay in mind, if you are not familiar with child psychological development, the first place I would start, especially if you're playing with your own kids maybe, is with a dude named Piaget, Piaget. He breaks down, it's actually super interesting, he breaks down child development into these stages. And the difference between being in this stage and this stage is almost like a light being turned on. It's that quick when it happens. And so, like, would you mind me saying some examples? Okay, so here's the first example. I can take 2 full cups of the same exact amount of water, and then in front of, let's say you're a child. No offense. Right? Because you're across the table from me right now. Okay, so I have 2 cups, and they're both full of water right here. And they're the same size cups. Then I take a smaller, fatter cup, and I pour this water in, right in front of you. And I say, which cup has more water? For the first period of time, for probably 4 or 5, you're going to say that this cup here has more water. Because it's taller. You haven't even developed the ideas of volume and in that perception. Or like, for instance, if anybody ever is babysitting and they have like an 8-year-old and and the 8-year-old gets a big cookie, where the little kid gets a smaller cookie because they don't need a big cookie. And they get upset, like, why is this cookie bigger than mine? You just break the cookie in half and go, well, you have 2 cookies. And that's all it takes. They're like, oh, I have 2. That's more than 1.
Until they figure it out.
Yeah. And then one day, like a light switch, they go, oh, no, that's the same amount of water, it's just in a different cup. Yeah. And then the next one is empathy. And so this is them being able to tell other people's motivations. So the one I share the most is like somebody like, let's say Mary hides her doll in the top drawer of a dresser. And then she leaves the room, and Timmy comes in. He takes it out of that drawer and puts it in a cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can ask the kid, where's Mary going to look for the doll? And before they reach this stage, they'll say, well, in where Tommy put it, in the cabinet. Even because they don't rationalize that she's not privy to the information that Tommy's privy to. They're two different people. Not everybody knows everything of all things.
Yeah, okay.
And so I really think that you probably can't play until after your kids reach that. Or else almost all social interactions and everything else will actually just be very passive.
You can, and that is true, but it begins to build into that second stage.
Yeah, oh no, I think it's great for development. I think that like you could totally develop somebody into that second stage just by explaining to them like these people have other motives, by showing them over and over again. I think it's great in imaginative space for child psychology and development. I mean, after that, you're really dealing with self-actualization and self-awareness, and those things are all good for in role play. Any kind of role playing game is good for building self-awareness, because getting to step out of your own skin and step into something else's skin and play around with it, you can kind of more like based on what makes you uncomfortable or comfortable, like figure out who you are more. I think. Another thing that we got on the topic over there, just for a short bit, we were talking about pogs and a couple other things, and we were talking about how like. Nowadays, it's cool to be a nerd. It's cool to be a nerd. The nerd is now the thing that's for sale.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's probably cheaper than it was when we were growing up, but like it's for sale everywhere now. Whereas before, when you were growing up, like no, you had to be that nerdy kid that was willing to get beat up for wearing the Super Nintendo shirt, even though, let's not lie, everybody was at home playing Super Nintendo. But if you were the guy that went and wore the Mario shirt when you were 14. Very good chance everybody's going to look down on you for being childish and a nerd.
See, you're using a bad example in my opinion. I think mainstream things, which even back then, Mario, everyone had it.
Yeah, no, not... I mean, everybody played it when they were a kid. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of kids. But what I mean is if you were in high school and you were a freshman and you came in with a Mario shirt, you were looked at as this certain type of person who never grew up.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I don't know if that necessarily means that you were beaten up for it.
Well, if you were
other
that
things,
plus other things.
Yeah, I was going to say there are other things that you have to add to that lineup other than the Mario
Well,
shirt.
if you watched anime before DBZ hit, good luck. Good luck. It's that, you know what?
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I mean, there was the arcade world, and there were people that were like, man, I hate the fact that there's mosquitoes out here all the time. Wow, I really actually caught it in my hand, and then I didn't kill it, and I let it go, and it flew out of my... I was like, right. Maybe he's got the
fear of God.
The fear of God putting
I doubt it.
Me alone. Yeah, I know.
It was the wrong God. You should have picked a rule.
The God of death. for all mosquitoes, you better believe. No, I think it's good for development. I think it really is for I think it's something really cool to do with your family. I think it's something really cool to bring a new generation of kids into. Whether nerddom be cool or not.
Yeah.
Wear it as a badge of honor.
I think that role-playing in general is a good exercise. If you're intentionally doing it to grow or not, don't slap the desk. Okay.
Oh, I'm not going to slap the desk. What kind of heathen do you believe I am?
The kind of heathen that wouldn't think about the fact that the mic's on.
Die,
just
mosquito!
Like me.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. No, but role-playing games in general, whatever game it is that you pick up, it's a great shared imaginative space. And because of that, even if you're not going into it with the intention of finding some form of personal growth, you're liable to find it anyways.
I think it's really, yeah. I think I've seen people do it. I've seen a DM force somebody in against their own nature. And it literally changed their nature in real life in a positive way. Somebody who didn't handle the pressures of responsibility and leadership well, that was forced into a leadership role, the people in their party would be dead if they did not take the leadership role, and so they were forced into doing it. And upon doing it, now this is the thing though too. It can be negative. If that person takes that leadership role, and then you destroy them and go, ha ha ha, you suck, then most likely they're probably in real life going to be even further away from ever being a leader. But if you're a good DM and a good person, You're going to realize that that's what you've done, and you're going to go, you know what, I'm going to support their ability to take on this mantle. That way they're more comfortable doing it in real life. And it gives them a better chance of taking charge of their own lives in a certain way.
If your intent is to bring around that sort of a change in a person or otherwise...
no crickets here. Grasshopper.
It's an interesting thing. Be careful with it. It's very easy to create a situation that could both enhance someone, build on their personality, build on their person as a whole. And on the other hand, if you accidentally don't take the full consideration of a situation that's happening, you could be causing some detrimental problems for that person.
Yeah, like psychological. I think, honestly speaking, like, coming from a film background, to me, like, they say, and it's been abused before, but the most important relationship between a director and an actor, like, you have to have a director can't just look at actors as these tools and pieces to use. He can, and he might get performances out of them, but in my mind, the thing I aspire to in reading it is the philosophy that, like, these people are putting themselves, their psychological health, in your hands in order for you to help mold them into what the story needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a responsibility. You have a responsibility to be true, like to not lie to them. You know, like you can trickery, this and that, but not to like set them up for failure.
Yeah.
By lying to them and then like pulling the rug out from under them. Unless it's something that they're supposed to overcome as part of the story, like if it's paid for. But if you're just being like a vindictive, mean person or something like that, like that's not okay.
No,
not at all.
You'll find the things you're talking about for directors. You'll find the same traits across a variety of DMs. Some of them will be very open and will be trying to focus on keeping an open discourse. Some of them just want to kick you in the dick.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, though, is everybody, like, needs to understand, in my opinion, that, like, somebody's giving themselves up to you, and you up to them in a shared imaginative space, and if control is the number one thing in your mind, or, you know, you have to have it your way as far as, like, the story has to go exactly like this, you're going to start coming into a lot of problems where you're, like, not giving a mutual respect to this other person, and that can actually really impact them negatively, like psychologically, if you're forcing them into these holes. As far as like directors, can you imagine the DM that does this? You know what the story about The Exorcist, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, so for The Exorcist, the original film,
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, for Exorcist, the original film, right? So the little girl had back problems her whole life. That scene where she's tied to the bed and the bed's doing this, that's real. That's all on motors. She was just there. No harness. Like the harness to keep her to the bed, but nothing like to protect her back or anything like that. And then there's a famous scene where the young priest is at the bottom of the stairs and the old priest falls down the stairs. He's dead. And the young priest like is horrified. And the director cannot get the horror he wanted from the person. So after so many takes, he like starts yelling at the guy and says, "You're gonna do it right." And then he calls cut again, and he pulls out a starter pistol. And no one knew it was just a starter pistol. And he points at the guy, and then fires. And then goes action. Can you imagine that, DM?
I can imagine that actor might have beat the life out of that director.
Well, he got exactly what he wanted, though. Great performance. Very real.
It wasn't a performance anymore.
But, you know, I'd rather be that one than the Twilight Zone one.
Don't even... No, it's okay.
Twilight Zone the movie.
It's okay.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, you need to watch the original Twilight Zone the movie.
It's something we can work out.
Go watch the original Twilight Zone the movie. You'll enjoy it.
Go watch the original Twilight Zone. John says you'll enjoy it.
If you get to the helicopter scene, you'll know what I'm talking about with the racist dude. When you get to it, that dude and those kids died. And that's a wrap, I guess, on Bullcritter's Corner.
Yep, this has been Steve.
And John.
With the Bullcritter's Corner. Y'all have a good evening. And
you have a lovely night.
We'll see you on Friday.
Bearing with us through our late start. You have a great night, and we'll see you on Friday. Yeah.